Recording.
Good. Hi, everyone. Hello.
Maybe wait a minute until more people come. Hello, everyone. We have 3 people in so far.
Awesome.
Hi, guys. Let us know if you can hear us and see us. Type a message in the chat. Quality is amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Why, thank you.
I feel very vulnerable right now. It's like they can just see all of me. I'm like, oh my God, please don't look at me. Don't perceive me, please. This is so nerve-wracking.
Beautiful. Hi, guys. I guess we can get started when you're ready.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. Hi, guys. I'm Jess. This series is called Makeup 101 with Jess. And today we're going to be talking about color correcting. So color correcting, it's not too much of a lengthy topic. So what I want to do this time, as opposed to last time, is I want to kind of make this class a little more interactive. So if you have any questions during about anything, feel free to send it in. And then I'll be answering. I can answer them throughout the class as we go. So color correcting. It's basically what color correcting is used for is to kind of neutralize other colors. So you kind of want to look at it as like a color wheel. So you have like how do I explain this in like easy terms? So let's say you have red, right? Red is going to be neutralized by green. And you kind of want to look at it that way. You kind of want to see the problems that you have. I don't want to say problems because it's not so much of an issue as much as it is just something we all deal with daily. But you want to look at it like this way. So like this is the NYX color correcting palette that I have. So you have the colors in here that I have are going to be green, peach, pink. You're going to have brown, which I will be honest, I don't use much of this one. I believe this is used more for darker skin tones, but personally I don't use it. Then you have yellow, purple, and more of an orange type of undertone or color, I'm sorry. So what I would use these colors for is the green is if I have any acne red marks on my skin. I'm going to use a little bit of that, and I'm just going to dab it lightly on any parts that I can see that there's redness. Um, the green is a little tricky. The colors that are a little trickier to use are probably the green and the purples. A little bit of the orange, just because those colors can be very pigmented. So sometimes you want to focus a lot more on the blending, which is kind of, if you were a part of last week's class, you kind of want to do the same thing, which is use your fingers, specifically your ring finger, and you want to just kind of grab a little bit of the product. So what I like to do is, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of green on there. So what I'll do is like I'll go on the back. Let's just, for sakes of this, pretend that there's redness here. So what I'll do is I'll just like dab it lightly like this until I see the color. So at first you'll notice that the color's a little like too bright. You want to just keep going until you notice that the color just kind of disappears and melts into the skin. And what that does is it causes less work for you to have to do once you apply the concealer or the foundation right over. Um, so green is used to neutralize red undertones or red tones. Then you have yellow. Yellow is more of a color that's used to kind of brighten the tones. So yellow is a color that I like to use personally wherever I see a little bit of more dullness because it helps to brighten, as does purple. Lavender kind of does the same thing. So where you have a little bit of more blue, a little bit of more like cooler tones, you want to use like the purple to kind of brighten it up, and the yellow as well. That's what I like to use it for. Um, peach. So peach and orange. Depending on your skin tone, you're gonna want to use one or the other. A lot of people have used, like, I don't know if anyone has seen those videos in the past where they talk about like or women have used like the red lipstick and they just like slather it on, and then they're using like they're taking forever to blend it out, and then you have to apply so much product over it. um Someone like me with my skin tone is not going to use a red lipstick for my under eyes. I'm not going to do that because that's going to look ridiculous. And then you're just going to see a slather of red. And I'm going to have to use so much product on top of that just to get it to neutralize itself. So for me, I have more, my under eyes are more like bluish, kind of. There's like hints of purple. So I go in with the peach and I lightly dab it in. Today it didn't look so bad, and that's why I didn't kind of use it as an example today, which I wish it would have, because then I totally would be like, yeah, let's do it. But so I would use more of a peach color corrector for my under eye specifically. The darker the skin tone, the darker the color you're going to use to correct. So if you have more of an olive skin tone, you're going to want to use more um, of an orange color corrector on your under eye and just lightly dab it in. And if it goes deeper, so if you have a deeper skin tone, so let's say that this is more geared towards Black women or even Southeast Asian women who have darker, deeper skin tones, you're going to want to use more of a red tone. But don't use too much. Always start light. Don't ever just go in and like grab like just like slather it on, because that's going to be so hard to blend out and you're going to just want to have to start all over. So always start lightly, and that goes for any product you're using. Start lightly, don't start so heavy, because sometimes the less you use, the more you get out of it. Um, if you remember if you were part of last week's class, and if you weren't and got a video of it and got to check it out, or just kind of know this already, if you let products kind of settle into or stay on the skin a little more and just kind of let them warm up, or even warm it up like on the back of your hand, you're going to notice you get more product out of it. It becomes a thicker consistency so that it's easier to use. And then once you dab it in and stuff, it just kind of like seamlessly settles into the skin. Same thing applies for color correcting. You have these colors right here. So usually what you would do is you'd apply like the peach. So let's say for myself, I would usually apply the peach on my under eye, the green for any acne marks I have, or redness, rosacea, any redness on your face. Usually that's geared more towards lighter skin tones. Deeper skin tones have this as well, but I've just noticed it a lot more in lighter skin tones where there's more of a rosacea, issues with like more redness popping up on their skin. So I would go in with green to just neutralize it and then apply a concealer right over that, and then boom, it's skin. It looks like skin. The purple, the lavender, or the yellow, like I said, that's going to be more for dullness that you have on your skin. So you're going to want to focus that on the areas where you can use a little bit more. Like you might notice, like, oh, this area just looks a little, so what's the word? Like where it just looks kind of dead, but it's not dead. But that's kind of where you want to use that color. And then the brown, I believe this one is going to be also like a color corrector for the under eyes, is what I believe is the intent behind this color right here. Again, I don't 100% know because I never have to use this one, and I've actually never had to use it on clients, and I've had clients that have deeper skin tones as well. I've never used this one, so I would try it out. If you have this palette at home, definitely play with it. It was like $11 on Amazon. Totally worth the buy. Honestly, you have all these different colors. There are other brands as well that offer color correcting palettes. This is just one of the more affordable ones that I find. I believe LA Girl Cosmetics actually has like the tubes. I don't know if you guys remember when they were coming out with like all these girls were using the color correcting. They were just like the tubes like this big or something, and everybody was like going crazy buying these things. So LA Girl Cosmetics actually has this as well. Their tubes are just their peaches looks more of an orange, a little. It's very pigmented. Their products are very pigmented, so a little goes a long way. Then they have a green one as well. I don't know if they have a red one, but I have seen more of peach and green. That's the two I've seen utilized a lot more. So I took some screenshots, and you'll see me looking at my phone a lot because I have a lot of my notes in here. So for deeper skin tones, like I mentioned, when you want to address discoloration or hyperpigmentation, which is an issue we all face, and it's normal. Don't feel ashamed because you have hyperpigmentation or acne scarring. It's normal. It's skin. Love yourself. I promise I love you the way you look. I don't even know you, and I love you. But you want to use more colors like orange and red, like I mentioned earlier, to kind of counteract that, because it's a warmer toned color and it's just spot treatment. So don't treat it like the way that you would your concealer or your foundation. Um, Color correcting is more of spot treating. So like at night when you are doing your skincare, you're doing your pimples and all that stuff, you're spot treating. You're just treating that specific area. You're not overdoing it. Don't just like apply it all over your face. Like I know there's videos of girls doing like these crazy things where they just apply like all peach here and then like purple and then like green and red and they just like blend it out. Don't do that. That's a recipe for disaster. Don't do it. You don't need to. I promise. Um, so the deeper the skin tone, the darker the color corrector you're going to use. The lighter the skin tone, the lighter the color corrector you're going to use. Um, Now, I also kind of wanted to touch on undertones because that's another important thing that we don't talk about as much. A lot of people don't know what that is. So, a lot of foundations tend to go more between cool, neutral, and warm. So cool undertones are going to be more of like your pinks, blues, and I think a lot of this you can kind of determine based on like your wrist, the color of your veins. So if you have more of blue on your veins, you're going to notice that it's going to be more of a cool undertone. If you have more green, you're going to notice that it's going to be warmer. And if you have a mix of both, you're going to be more on the neutral side. So that's a really cool way to determine that. Another thing I like to do is when I'm matching myself to any foundations, I always go for the neck. So right here is where I'm going to match it. Don't match it to your arm. Don't match it to your hand. Don't match it to your face. Match it to your neck because you're going to want to blend that product in to the rest of your face. So whenever you have foundations, like I said, you have cool, warm, and neutral. Cool is more your pink blue undertones. Neutral is a mix of both, and then warm is going to be more of your reds, oranges. Think on the color spectrum, think of that. Like think neutral, both right in the middle, cool, pink and blue, warm, more of your red, orange tones like that. So now the thing with undertones is a lot of foundations will portray one thing, right? So we don't always know like what our undertone is. When we have a foundation, sometimes it states like it'll have like funky numbers like NWC, like MAC has like NC15, NW15, or N15 or something like that. That determines the undertone on the foundation. If you don't know yours, and like, let's say sometimes we've gone to Sephora, and I know a lot of you have probably gotten mismatched on your foundation. I know I have. Every time I walk into Sephora, the girls there, no shade to them, I love them. I'm sure they're doing a great job. But every time I walk into Sephora, they always give me a pink undertone. Always. So I walk out and I'm thinking, oh, this looks great. And then boom, pink right here on my neck. And I'm like, what the hell? Okay. So the cool thing about foundations and just color correcting in general, and this is how this ties in, is there's products you can use to, if you love a foundation, right? Let's say you went to Estee Lauder and you bought like the $40 foundation and you're like, oh my God, this is my favorite foundation. I love this. I spent so much money on it, yada, yada. But it's the wrong undertone. There's products you can buy to kind of to mix in with the foundation so that it corrects the tone. So LA Girl Cosmetics, it has 3 different products. It's actually like a foundation bottle. They have a blue one, a white one. I think they have a yellow one. I'm pretty sure they do. I can't remember if they have a green one, but I know they have for sure blue, white, and I want to say they do have a yellow one. And that those 3 are they help to neutralize the undertone on the foundation. So if you have more of a, let's say you're on the warmer side and the foundation they gave you was a cool undertone foundation, and you're like, I don't want to go return it, or they have a no return policy, you can get one off LA Girl Cosmetics. I know it's spending more money, but I promise it's worth it. And get the yellow one. Get the yellow foundation bottle. You're going to mix a little bit of that in there, and then you're just going to blend it in, and you will be able to get your foundation match. So learning undertones and learning color correcting kind of all ties in together because you want to make sure that you're not walking out looking like, oh, I have red here or I have pink here and I look nothing like that. None of those colors match me. You want to make sure they match all together. And it takes a lot of practice. It's not something that you're just going to master overnight. It's taken me so long. You guys should, if you guys would have known me like 2 years ago, I used to use like orange color corrector, and you can see it on my under eye. Like I looked ridiculous. It would just be sitting there, and I thought that I knew what I was doing. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody can tell me anything. I've been practicing makeup for so long. I make mistakes. Sometimes I know what I'm doing. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. And that also ties into like eyeshadow colors and kind of what matches your skin tone, because what might look good on someone is not going to look good on someone else. So when it comes to eyeshadows, the cool thing about eyeshadows is like obviously colors are going to look like how they're going to look like no matter what. They're going to look like, it just depends on your skin tone. So like on myself, if I'm using like a blue's going to pop up like crazy on my eyes. But if someone with a darker skin tone uses that same blue, it might not look as vibrant. So the thing that you want to kind of learn with a lot of these colors and how to test them and how to try them out is you kind of want to go for the colors that work for you. And that's why this all ties in together. And I know it's a lot of information and I'm so sorry, but it's just, it all really ties in together. And it's really cool. The really cool thing about it is that you can mess up and no one's perfect. Like I said, it took me so long for me to get to a point where like I finally realized that this is the tone for me and not this one. Because this one's gonna show up on my concealer. Like when I apply my concealer over this one, you're still gonna see it on my under eye. Whereas if I apply this one, you're not gonna see it. It's just gonna kind of brighten my under eye a little more. And then I'll apply my concealer over it and you'll be able to see it. Like today I just used it for the sake of using it and seeing to test it out and see kind of how it works out for me. And it worked out. It worked out great. I have just a little scarring right here. It's not too noticeable anymore. I just, well, it's not noticeable because I'm wearing foundation, but I used a little bit of the green, and I noticed that when I did acne scarring, sometimes the tricky thing about it is that it sometimes takes on like um like a purplish hue sometimes, like bluish, like it darkens oddly enough. So it's not always going to be that red that like you would expect from a pimple. Sometimes it takes on, depending on how long you've had it for, it's going to darken up a little. So I had to play with like a bunch of these colors just to kind of get the color that I needed to like play with it, because I was like, oh, I wonder how like it'll test out for me. So I used a little green, I used a little yellow just to kind of neutralize it, and that's all I really needed. When it comes to foundations and such, what you want to do is, like I said, you want to test out the things that you're going, the color and the undertones and stuff. And don't be afraid to speak up, because just because someone works at Sephora or someone works at MAC, that doesn't mean they know more than you do. You know your skin, and you have to remember the lighting that you're under, because that plays a huge part. They're gonna have lighting kind of like this, right? Whereas like right here in front of you, I look this way, but the second I walk outside, my tone looks a little different. And if I'm in darker lighting, it's going to look a lot more different. So like I can be in my house and think like, oh my gosh, no, like my contour, everything, it looks great, it looks perfect. It No, it's going to be a little darker. The second I step outside, it's going to look like a splotch of like brown and just like pink and darker. So that's why I say when you're going to get color matched, ask questions, make sure you tell them like, this is the foundation I've used before, this is kind of what works for me, this is kind of what doesn't. And if it doesn't, like, don't be afraid to speak up, like say what you need to say. um so all that goes to say, just telling you guys, kind of empowering you guys a little bit here.
We did have one question.
Oh yeah.
Does cream versus powder depend on your skin type and texture?
um yes and no. So I feel like cream products and powder products vary person to person just on preference. So someone like myself that has combination oily skin, I've seen girls that have combination oily skin use powder products and it looks amazing on them. Even though sometimes I end up using like cream products, I still have the breakage. Like my oil, the oil on my skin is still gonna break through, no matter if it's powder, no matter if it's cream or liquid, whatever it is, it's gonna break through because that's just my skin. So I think it's a personal preference to you and what you prefer kind of on the finish. Texture is gonna show up regardless. Texture is just a thing that everyone has. If you don't have texture, I don't believe you. I think everyone has texture. Personally, it's something that I've noticed. Like I used to fight with that a lot because for me it would show up like right here around my cheek area. You could see like little bumps and stuff. And sometimes that just ties into skincare too. It just depends on what products you're using. Are you exfoliating enough? What moisturizer you're using? Are you using sunscreen? You kind of tailor everything to what you're using day to day, day in and day out. So as far as powder cream, it's just a personal preference. I think you can rock whichever one you want to. just what you prefer. Like I personally prefer cream products because for me that works. I've tested powder, I've tested just liquid. I personally prefer cream products. They just work better for me. But if you're like, hey, I like this powdered foundation from like Maybelline, like, or what is it, L'Oreal Infallible, like this one works better than the liquid, use it. Just test it. There's no rules when it comes to makeup. Yeah.
And then we had another question. What about if you have freckles?
Let them show.
First of all,
Please let them show because I have freckles. You can't see right now because I'm wearing a little heavier makeup, but please let your freckles show. But if you are like a little more like, oh, I don't want them to show, I just don't really like my freckles. You just kind of want to use a little more of a full, what is it called? Full coverage products. And you can, and don't just buy, like, you can if you're comfortable just using a full coverage foundation. But if you're more on the end of like, oh, I just kind of want to work my way up, use more of a light to medium coverage. I personally prefer medium coverage because I can tailor that to what I want my finish to look like. So if I'm like, oh, I want more of a natural look, I'm going to go in and I'm only going to use a little bit of my medium coverage foundation as opposed to my full coverage foundation. But if I'm like, no, I want to cover all this sucker up, all of it, like I'm going to use more full coverage instead, or I'll just double down a little more on my medium coverage. But please let your freckles show. Please. Don't hide them. I promise. They're beautiful. Do you have any more questions?
not at the moment.
No? Okay, awesome. So if you guys have any questions, more questions about like color correcting or just makeup in general, like this isn't just about color correcting. Like I want you guys to ask any questions you have about anything, any preferences, any brands, any recommendations. Feel free to ask. Like I said, I'm looking because I have notes. Um, so another thing I wanted to kind of touch on, aside from the color correcting itself, is I mentioned a little snippet last week where I said when you're using products that are tailored to, or let me start over. Sometimes you'll notice that you have products like, let's say you use like your e.l.f. Power Grip Primer, right? And then you're like, this is my favorite primer. I love this primer. And then you apply a foundation on top of it, and you'll notice that it doesn't settle in all the way. Like you'll notice cracks, like whether that's around your nose, whether that's right here. You notice that it breaks, it just doesn't sit well. So the reason that happens is because you have two different ingredient based products. So you'll have your silicone products and your water based products. The thing to look at and pay attention to is what ingredients are being used in those products. So you'll have, if it ends with cone, if there's any products in your primer that end with cone, that's silicone. And anything that doesn't have the words cone in it, it's going to be water based. So you want to match your foundation to your primer and your concealer as well. As far as bronzer, contouring, all that applies, that doesn't really tailor into this. But you want to focus more on the products that you're using for the full face because that's kind of like what that's the canvas you're painting and that's what you want to look the best. So I think last week, if like I said, if you were part of the class last week, I mentioned how I have the Lady Gaga foundation by House Labs, and then I have the Kosas concealer. So the Lady Gaga foundation is a silicone based foundation. So any products that are silicone based are going to work well and blend in well with that. So today I'm using that same foundation and I'm using the Morphe concealer because it's also silicone based and it blended in. I didn't have any breakage, didn't have to work hard to kind of get it to blend in together. When I was using the Kosas one, I had a little bit more of a difficulty because what tends to happen with water based is that it's a little more liquidy, so you have to make sure you mix it really well. And you want to use a water based foundation to go with it because it just seamlessly blends in together. If you mix both, if you mix a silicone and a water base, it's going to cause more breakage on your skin. Um, and that happens sometimes. I have some foundations and some concealers that I'm like, no, I'm gonna make this work. Like it's gonna work regardless. I don't care if this is water based. I don't care if this is silicone based. I'm gonna make it work. You just have like if you want to sit there and fight with it, girl, fight with it. I'm here for it. But if you are like, no, I just want this to be a little seamless, then use the products. Make sure you're paying attention to the ingredients. And it's not always going to have it on the box, or it's going to have it on the box, but you're not always going to pay attention to that. So what I recommend doing is if there's products that you are like, oh, I really like this foundation, or I really want to buy this concealer, Google, is House Labs a silicone based or water based foundation? Is Kosas a silicone based or water based concealer? And it tells you, it'll tell you like, oh, it's water based or oh, it's silicone based. That way you kind of know what products you're going to mix in together that are going to give you the finish that you want. And I just wanted to mention that because I know I kind of said something about that last week, and I just felt that was an important thing for base makeup, is that you remember that, is that you look into that and you pay attention to those ingredients and those things, because they are important when it comes to the type of finish you want and the type of look you're trying to achieve. So please pay attention to that. So a little more, I guess, on color correcting is I mean, I'll just swatch these because I just feel like that's cool too. So this is more of the brownish tone, and my skin is so pale that you can see it, okay? Like there's no way you're not going to see this. Oh yeah, you can see it. Cool. Okay. So this is the brown one. So this is the one that you would apply on your under eye. Then we have the peach corrector right here. So this is the one that I use. Oh, cool. You can see it like that. Okay. So you can see it right here. So that's the peach one. That's the one that I use on my under eye. Then we have the orange one, which is kind of like a mix of like orange and peach a little. But this is the one that I was mentioning that is also more for other skin tones as well. So these three are the ones that you're going to use for your under eyes. And like I said, you're going to lightly just blend it in like this. And keep blending it, keep blending it, keep blending it until you get the finish and the look that you're looking for. So then what you do is you're going to have the lavender one, or purple. And that one is kind of looks a little blue right here, but it's lavender, and it helps to brighten up the undertone or the skin a little bit, because it sometimes our skin looks really dull, and that could just be because we're not drinking enough water. So drink your water, please. And then the yellow. So the yellow is going to be right there. It looks a little bit like a highlighter. So that one is another one that you're going to want to use to kind of brighten up your skin. And then we have the green one, which I don't think I put on here. Green, which you can see the most. Oh my god, you can definitely see the green. So the green one is the one you're going to use to neutralize the red. And that's the one that, like I said, you want to focus and you want to blend out the most. But yes, so do we have any questions as of right now? Anything that you guys maybe want to know a little bit more about? How to find out certain things, maybe any product recommendations that I can assist with?
Meredith said, does sparkling water count?
Yes. Yes. That's a good question. Just hydrate yourself, right. any type of water.
If that's what it is.
That's so funny.
I'm like, same.
I love that question. Yeah, same. That's like, when you go to a restaurant and then they're like, would you like sparkling or would you like tap? And I'm like, what's the difference? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, just give me whichever one's easier for you. Like, I don't know. What do you prefer?
Mallory M says, how do you keep the layering of products from making you look old? When I do under eye, it makes me look so old.
Good question. So a thing that I have mentioned before is that sometimes a lot of us have lines on our under eyes. Sometimes our skin, because the skin on our under eyes tends to be very fragile. It's very fragile. So it's not something that you want to like pull and tug or anything like that. So what I like to do is I like to use the product on the back. I will grab a little bit of product, so concealer, and I'll start off there. So I never over layer on my under eye specifically, because it's such a fragile, thin area. You don't want to overdo it on the product on there. So what I personally like to do is always use eye cream. So I always go with eye cream first and I let it sit, because eye cream hydrates the area. This is the air. I've learned recently that our under eye is the driest area of our skin, on our face specifically. So this is an area that it's not going to get any of like the hyaluronic acid. Like if you're drinking water, this is part's probably not going to look like, it's not going to get any of it. And this is what I've learned over time. So eye cream is your best friend. Invest in eye cream. Like I don't believe, like as far as skincare goes, I 100% believe that you should invest in skincare. And it doesn't mean buying like the $100 La Mer, like, moisturizer from Sephora. There's so many products that you can use that are really good and tailored for your skin type. So one thing, like if you can type it in there and tell me what your skin type is too, I can probably recommend some products. But to focus on the under eye, you want to make sure you go in with an eye cream. You let that sit in there. Don't apply products too closely to when you apply the eye cream. So I would let it sit for a couple minutes, And then what I'll do is you can go in with a primer if you like. If not, that's totally optional. I personally don't use primer on my under eye. And then I like to warm up the product on the back of my hand. So I'll grab a little bit. So just as an example, what I like to do is I will go in with a concealer. So we'll just say that the yellow for this video's sake. I'll go in with the concealer and I'll have the product and then I'll just warm it up on the back of my hand, right? And then what I'll do here is what afterwards is I'll grab the excess product and I'm going to lightly tap it and dab it into my under eye. So I'll do that until I feel like, okay, that's enough coverage. Don't apply foundation on your under eye. That's overdoing it. Once I learned that foundation and then applying concealer on top makes it look so cakey, that's when I stopped doing that. So I only apply concealer on my under eye. I don't apply anything else. If you feel like you need to layer more concealer, you totally can do that. That's totally optional. Then what I do is I will let it sit. I don't touch it. I let it sit. I'll do the rest of my face. So I'll do my foundation right after. And then I will go in and, do my bronzer, contouring, whatever else I need. And then I'll go back in and I'll go in with like a beauty blender or a brush, a dense brush. And I'll how to explain it? So this is my under eye, right? So what I'll do is I'll push it in to the lines. So like I said, we all have, most of us, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but most of us have lines on our under eye. So I'll push the product in to my under eye to make sure that the concealer that's sitting there, because sometimes it'll settle into our lines, push it in until I see that it's kind of smooth. And you go in with the powder puff. So you'll go in with a setting powder and you go in with the powder puff, and you can get them on Amazon. They have like packages. You can get like a 12 pack for, I believe, less than $10. You'll go in and you'll grab a little bit of your setting powder. So you'll grab the powder puff, you'll put it into the setting powder. You don't use the product that's on the back of your powder puff directly on your face. What you're going to do after is you'll grab that powder puff and you're going to go on the back of your hand and you're going to dab off the excess. So you can push it into the back of your hand or you can swirl it, whatever works best for you. And then what you do is you're going to look up and you're going to push the product in with the powder puff and just lightly push it in. And you'll notice that it leaves kind of like a smooth type finish. I don't know. I wonder if I can see it, but on my under eye, I kind of did that same thing today where I just did it with the powder puff and I go inwards because what that does is the powder puff has the same consistency of like the beauty blender where it just helps to seamlessly get the product in and it kind of avoids it to look too cakey. If you feel like you've overdone it on the powder, just grab a brush and just kind of lightly feather away the excess product that you have on your under eye. And that should help. If it does help, let me know. If it doesn't, I will do my research and I will help you out with that.
And she did say that she has combo skin.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So same. Yeah. Sister. So you want to focus on hydration. So the thing is with oily skin, once I learned this, it was a game changer. The reason that our skin overproduces oil is because it's dehydrated. So you want to apply more hydrating products to your skin. So products that I like to recommend are like hyaluronic acid. You want to focus on the hydration. So essence. And I think maybe we can like put together something for you. I can put together something for you of products and we can text them to you through the text line so that you have these options as well. You want to focus on hyaluronic acids because that's hydrating. You want to make sure that you're moisturizing every night. Double cleansing is a really good thing that I've learned. So what I tend to do for my skin is in the morning, I don't cleanse. I use my micellar water because sometimes I feel like our skin needs those oils. And honestly, if you have a combination or if you have oily skin, you're going to look younger for a long time. Once I learned that, girl, I'm so excited to look like 40 in my 60s. I'm so excited. But what you want to do is you're going to focus on the hydration aspect of it. That's the thing. That's key right there. And that's not drinking water. And so, I mean, drink your water, please. But that's not the sole focus of it. That's not what's going to help you. It's the types of products you're using. So there's like brands like The Ordinary that have a couple products. Those are more affordable. But like I said, I personally, over using so many different products, I invest in what I'm putting on my skin. So some of my favorite brands are like Youth to the People. They have it at Sephora. I love that brand. They use more like natural organic ingredients and they're very transparent about what they use. So I love that brand. I feel when I had like a sample of it, of their moisturizer, I had it for like 2 weeks and it changed my skin. Like I was getting so many compliments on my skin, and that never happened before because my skin always looks so dull and stuff. And so I would people be like, "Oh my god, you're glowing." And one time someone was like, "Are you pregnant?" I was like, "No, not pregnant. It's just moisturizer. Sorry." Sorry to disappoint, but I focus on that aspect. So Youth to the People is a really good brand. um sunscreen is another huge thing. Please make sure, everyone, that you're putting on sunscreen every day before you leave the house. It helps. It also helps. Sunscreen aids in also getting rid of some hyperpigmentation, some dark spots. It can also help prevent getting more freckles if that's kind of what you want to prevent from happening. It can help with that because what's happening is the UV rays are kind of attacking our skin, and the sun in Las Vegas is not forgiving. So you want to make sure that you apply that sunscreen, use it. But I will send you a list of recommendations. Cause RX is another product that I love. It's I believe it's like a Korean skincare brand. Um, and they actually there's a bunch of other Korean skincare products that I love. Peach and Lily is another one. That's a brand. They have it at Ulta. Cause RX, you can get it. I think at Ulta actually. You can get it at Ulta. Peach and Lily, you can get at Ulta. The Ordinary, you can get at Ulta. Youth to the People, you can get at Sephora or on their website. That's my number one brand. I love that brand 100%. Any other questions? No, never
So
know.
far,
Okay,
no.
awesome. So I want to think what else I should talk about regarding color correcting, or brightening. I think I had mentioned how LA Girl Cosmetics has like the three different foundations, like the yellow, the blue, and the white. So the white is if your foundation is too dark, which happens, and sometimes that happens. Oh, that's tip. A lot of people tend to get darker over the summertime, and we don't always want to buy another foundation because foundation's expensive, especially if it's more on the high end. We're not going to want to spend so much money on all these products, right? So if you buy that LA Girl Cosmetics, the white foundation, you can use it to lighten your foundation so that it matches your winter skin tone. Just a trick that I've learned. I mean, I'm the same color all year round, so I don't have that issue. But a lot of people do. A lot of people tend to tan more during the summertime, and then during the winter, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like back to like pale." And so that's kind of when you want to use that product. And that also applies to color correcting. So if you notice that your skin or the issues that you're having during the summertime are darker than they are during the wintertime, lighten up on those products. Don't think that just because you're using red or peach, not peach, but let's say red, right? We're going to focus on that. So let's say that in the summertime you're using red undertones to kind of correct and counterbalance and neutralize the issues that you're having. In the wintertime, you're going to want to lighten it up a little. So maybe you want to go with an orange instead of red because your skin tone does change, things do change, things happen. It's life.
Do you have any sunscreen brand
Oh
recommendations?
my god, yes.
Okay.
Innisfree. They sell it at Sephora. I think it's like $15. Love that brand. There's one that's water based. It's starts with the letter M. It's a Korean skincare brand that I absolutely love. A lot of people love the Supergoop one. My cousin loves that one. La Roche Posay. They have a great sunscreen as well. Absolutely love it, and it's affordable. These are more the affordable end. Let me think. There is another one that I do like. Even Neutrogena, they used to have one. It was called like it was blue. It was like a hydro balance or something. They used to have it at Ulta, and I used to swear by it because it feels like a water consistency. And another thing with sunscreen is when you're applying your sunscreen, you want to make sure that when you apply it, because that's your last step in the morning. I would hope that that's what you guys are doing, is that that's your last step in the morning. So when you leave the sunscreen on, don't apply your foundation, your primer, or any makeup products to your skin right after that. Let it settle in for about 5 minutes because what tends to happen sometimes is if you apply your foundation or your primer too close to the time that you applied the moisturizer or even the sunscreen, it tends to peel. That happens to me. I don't know if anybody else has had that issue ever, but that happens to me where it just peels and I don't know why. But those brands, Supergoop, Innisfree, um Neutrogena, And then La Roche-Posay are great, great sunscreen brand. There is another one that I can't really think of right now, but it's great. But we do have a recommended page that we are working on, and I think that if you go on our Instagram, our Humblebee, I believe it's Humblebee Sugaring Studio, we have like some of the girls have recommended personal products that they love, and we've all sent in kind of like things that we swear by. So if you go on there, each girl has like products that they recommend, and there's an affiliate link that you can also click on, and it'll send you right to it. And you can get it on Amazon. A lot of these products you can get on Amazon, which is great because they'll get here in 2 days. You don't have to wait for shipping forever. Because I have this what is it? This app called Yes Style, I believe is what it is, and it's more for like Korean skincare. It took me 2 months, 2 months to get my sunscreen. So I just would rather pay pay a little extra, get it in 2 days, than wait 2 months to get some of these products. But yes, go on our Instagram and then click on there. We have the recommended page, and you can see every girl's recommendation. Everyone has different products they recommend. Some of the girls recommend like the glycolic acid toner from The Ordinary, which is great if you suffer from like hyperpigmentation, darkness, and it helps too with if you are more on the oh my underarms smell bad. If you use that toner, it gets rid of a lot of like the smell. Like I tested it out, it works. It was great. I loved it. I was like, wow, I don't have to use it. But then I missed it and then it started, so I had to use deodorant again. But it's a great product. Personally, my favorite product is like the CosRX Power Essence. It's snail mucin is what is utilized in that product, and that's kind of what helps with hydration and retaining the hydration. So I use the CosRX Power Essence. I do a little bit of I do like maybe 3 little squirts, and then I apply it all over my face, and then I go in with the rest of my products. um Mallory, I believe when we were talking you mentioned the combination oily skin. So a product that I also love, another brand that I absolutely swear by, is Paula's Choice. Paula's Choice is amazing, and they do deals constantly. One of the girls recommended, I believe it was the BHA, like the toner. That's great for a liquid exfoliation. They also have a toner that I personally use that is specifically for hydrating, and it helps me because it looks like a milky consistency, but it really helps to hydrate my skin. Those products have been just game changers for me personally. But yeah.
I think if we're all done, we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if nobody has any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can always text us if you have any questions, comment on our Instagram, send us any emails, anything like that. If you ever have any questions about makeup or skincare, recommendations, tips, anything like that, just feel free to reach out to us. Um, I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you guys learned about color correcting and kind of what kind of will work for your skin tone. And if you have any further questions about it, let me know. I'm here to answer anything that you may have. Any recommendations on color correcting palettes or products, I'm here. But yeah, this was fun.
Yeah. Do you want to share your Instagram as well, where people can find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is jskinalchemist. Alchemist, like I don't know if you guys watch Harry Potter, but like Nicholas Flamel, the alchemist. So yeah, it's jskinalchemist, and you can follow me on there. You can message me, ask me any questions you might have. I think like on our Humblebee Instagram, they've tagged me on there. So if you follow us on there, you can feel free to send me a message. I am available at all times to answer any questions. This is fun. This is what I live for. This is like what I've dreamed of since I was like 19. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I'm always available. But yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.